When the sun comes up on America, across open fields, small towns, and city streets, a new day begins. And here, we rise with it. This is where hard work meets headlines, where truth matters, and America wakes up informed.
An interesting week.
They all are.
This is your country. This is your morning. This is Daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. America, let's do it together.
Love you, Ivy.
Love you too.
And it starts right now.
All right, let's kick off another brand new day here at the program. Glad to have you on board. It's a beautiful Wednesday, and glad you're here on Daybreak, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom and man. The Democrat Party is under fire, that's for sure, from the far left. We'll talk about that. Number one today in the three big things. Acting Attorney General Todd Blanche dropping the hammer on fraud again, announcing 455 people have been charged in a $6.5 billion fraud scheme, stealing the money through health care scams. Number two, Arizona Senator Democrat Ruben Gallego, close friend of the disgraced former Congressman Eric Swalwell, now facing serious charges that he's been using his campaign fund to pay for a lavish lifestyle, which, by the way, is a felony, or in this case, many felonies. And number three, oil is flowing through the Strait of Hormuz at record levels this week, even as Iran tries to play the big bad guy on the issue. Oil this morning, $71 a barrel. Tehran announced on Saturday to close the strategic waterway again in response to Israeli attacks in Lebanon, but our U.S. Central Command responded by stating Iran, quote, does not control the Strait of Hormuz. You see, they lie about everything. It reassured the public that, quote, traffic continues to flow and U.S. forces are monitoring the situation to ensure this remains the case. In fact, Trump says 19 million barrels came through the strait in just one day this week. Listen to this.
We're doing very well with Iran. They've been decimated, and we're making a deal with them, and we'll see how that all goes. And right now, as you probably heard yesterday, we had 19 barrels of oil, 19 million barrels of oil come off, and that's the biggest in the history of the Strait, the Hormuz Strait. Our stock market is through the roof, and oil prices are tumbling. We actually hit for a moment today. In fact, I think it's going to break it, $70 a barrel. That's lower than we were when we started, and it's been amazing. And the big thing is, Iran will not have a nuclear weapon.
You should never trust the Iranians' message on anything. They'll tell you the strait is closed while record levels of oil pass through. They'll pretend to oppose the key part of the peace deal while signing away on it behind closed doors. Trump put another one of their lies to rest as well when reporters asked him about inspectors coming to Iran's nuclear facilities. Here's more.
The Iranians are saying there's no scheduled visit for the IAEA inspectors. Is that part of your agreement?
They're wrong. They're wrong. They know they're wrong. They told us inside, and we have it down 100% inspection. And if they were right, I'd cancel the meetings right now.
And Iran says there's no agreement by act
From your view, Mr. President, when will those inspectors actually be on the ground?
At the appropriate time. At the appropriate time. There's no rush, but they'll be on the ground at the appropriate time.
You have to remember that Iran is going to do whatever it takes to convince its people that it still has the upper hand. It's really not that complicated. But when J.D. Vance returned from Switzerland after negotiations, inspections was one of the first things he promised that they reached a deal on. Here he is.
Guys, but look, the fundamental thing we got is, number one, we set up the mechanism to ensure not only the Straits of Hormuz are open, but will stay open. We think about 15 million barrels of oil come out. That's one of the reasons why oil is so low right now. Obviously, that means lower gas prices, and gas prices are going to keep coming down. Number two, we actually set up the right mechanism to ensure the regional ceasefire to manage the inevitable conflicts that will come up. We feel great about that. We're working with our allies, from the Israelis to the Gulf Arabs, to make sure that sticks, and we feel very, very good about where that is. We have the Iranians allowing weapons inspectors, nuclear inspectors into their country for the first time in a long time. We're obviously going to bolster that inspection regime to make sure they can never have a nuclear weapon. And finally, we continue to make progress on these technical negotiations. We left a lot of our team, the Iranians left a lot of their team at the resort there to keep on working at it. So all in all, a very productive 36 hours.
Lots of good things in the works, according to the president's team. And the Switzerland table talks have paved the way for next steps, which will hammer out more on how the actual implement and these guidelines come through. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the memorandum of understanding is just the beginning of negotiations, and that there will be many things discussed over the next 2 months in order to ensure that this is the best deal for the world and, most importantly, for America, for us. Here he is.
I think a careful reading of the MOU will see that when you talk about, for example, a complete end of hostilities in the entire region, well, that's not possible. You can't have the end of hostilities and conflicts in the region as long as Iranian proxies are launching missiles and drones from Iraq and are participating in terrorism like Hamas did and like Hezbollah did. So I do think it's covered by the MOU, and it is an issue that will be gotten to at the appropriate time in these negotiations.
Trump's critics and even some of his allies have expressed skepticism over this deal. And it's a free country. You're entitled to your opinion and your right to air it. But like Rubio said, this is just the start. And Trump's critics would have you believe that no one thinks it's a winner. But this poll shows that an astonishing 67% of Americans support the peace deal. 67%, 2 out of 3 support the deal. Americans want the conflict to end. That much we all agree on. And unlike the war hawks who spent decades trying and failing at regime change, or the Democrats who allowed bad deals to fund terrorism, Americans can see that Trump is delivering peace through strength. And the Iranian assets that we're unfreezing are going to go directly toward our own economy. How? Well, listen to this.
One of the things that we are doing also, and it came up last night, is money that's being unfrozen is going to be used to buy food, and the food's going to be bought exclusively through the United States from our farmers. And corn, soybeans, all of the things they need are going to be bought from our farmers. So our farmers are very happy. I've had a lot of calls. They were very happy about that. So,
yeah, and that's just part of putting America first in this deal. And something else that people are failing to mention is that if Iran chooses to be more diplomatic in this aftermath of the conflict, that's a win for the world and for us. A stable Middle East means prosperity globally for everyone. I wouldn't say my hopes are high on that front, but even Rubio, a staunch critic of Iran, says he has the same hopes as a result of the incentives that we've laid out in this deal. Here's more.
If Iran makes a decision, if its leadership makes a decision that they want to be a country instead of a revolutionary movement that exports terror, they're going to have an opportunity to do incredible things in Iran. I'm not promising you that that's the choice they're going to make. I'm saying if that's the choice that they make, then there will be opportunities, and those opportunities could include investment, as you've seen other countries in this region benefit from investment, from foreign direct investment. It won't be our investment, it won't be our government money, but I think that is something that's going to have to depend on progress made on a host of other security issues that have to be confronted in the days to come.
Now, that would be the cherry on top, wouldn't it? The Gulf nations want to see it. It's why they've committed to reconstruction efforts if Iran shows that it's going to be a team player. And for clarity's sake, it's Gulf money that will go to those efforts, not ours, not our tax money, despite the smears that the mainstream media keep insisting on. 67% of Americans support this deal, and that's important. And a big correction to the pundits trying to sell this as a fail, but there's still a long way to go. We'll talk more about it in just a moment here on Daybreak. All right, again, we have a long way to go because you have to remember who it is we're dealing with. Senator Tim Sheehy is a former Navy SEAL. He served multiple deployments in the Middle East in the mid-2010s. He knows a thing or two about the Iranian regime, and he's skeptical, as he should be, as you should be, as I am. Here he is.
But this isn't a regime that wants to negotiate. They want to buy time. They want to buy as much time as they can because President Trump's the only president who's ever actually gone after them head-to-head, who's shown them that if you kill Americans, if you come after our country, we're going to hit you back. And from Soleimani to Midnight Hammer to the most recent campaign, he's the first president ever to actually go after this regime. So what we're seeing now is what the rope-a-dope they usually perform, which is buy time, try to lead us along till hopefully President Trump and this team's out of office and they can re-up their campaign. So hopefully this is successful, but we have to remind ourselves we are dealing with a regime that will not negotiate in good faith. They want you and I dead and all of us to be gone, and they don't want that to happen with the snap of a finger. They want to happen like October 7th times a million.
Yeah, like I said, if anyone would know, it's Tim Sheehy. Like he said, we've got a phenomenal team at the helm this time. The most capable in the last 47 years, and a lot has changed since the 2010s. A lot has changed in just the last 3 months, and Trump says that no other president has been able to negotiate with Iran in these kinds of conditions before, and that might be what makes all the difference. He has a message to his critics, even his friends who don't like this deal. He said there's plenty to learn. Listen.
What will you say to allies of yours like Senator Cruz who've been critical of the Iranians?
Well, I think anybody that's been critical of it has to be educated, even if they're friends of mine. Because we have Iran in a position that nobody's ever had. This should have been done for 47 years by other presidents. And we have Iran in a position where their military has been totally wiped out, their leadership has been wiped out, their radar's been wiped out, everything's been wiped out. They have not a good negotiating position.
And that's going to be the difference, the main difference in where we've been and where we are now. Iran knows that Trump means what he says. This is what peace through strength looks like. While Iran blusters and lies to its own people, oil flows, inspectors are coming, terror proxies are on the table. And American farmers will feed the region with unfrozen funds. 67% of Americans see it. They are tired of forever wars, I am, and you are, and weak deals that embolden terror. Under President Trump, we negotiate from dominance, not desperation. Iran isn't in a strong position, and they know it. They can choose prosperity, or they can choose to perish. With this team at the helm, America is finally putting its interests first and winning. Winning. Big losses for the Democrats yesterday. Big losses to the Democratic Socialists all across the state of New York. It is a remarkable turn of events. 2 sitting members of Congress, including Dan Goldman, lost in the primary, and not close elections. They got buried in landslides. A trifecta for Zohran Mamdani, the candidates that he endorsed, that Bernie Sanders endorsed. Make no mistake, my friends, these people are dangerous. And they've got momentum. They've got momentum. And that's the big fear that you should have today. Because it's not just isolated to New York City. It's happening in Chicago. It's happening in Seattle. It's happening here in Michigan, where I live, where Abdul El-Sayed is leading the pack to be the next U.S. Senator from Michigan. It is a concern that you should have, that we all should have. Where do we go from here? And what happened to the Democrat Party? Let me just tell you what happened. The Democrat Party of your parents doesn't exist anymore. The Democrat Party that existed when you were in high school and college doesn't exist anymore. These are socialists, outright socialists, and they'll celebrate it. They will celebrate it. For me, I'm going to celebrate America. I'm going to celebrate America and fight for this country every single day, as you should as well. The new song, One Nation, is in queue and ready to go. It's an American anthem put together by myself, Ivy, and our good friend Laura Kokenauer. It releases on Friday, but I've got a sneak preview for you today. You can pre-order right now. Roll that, Anthony.
From prayer to purpose to a promise that still stands. From Rav's own Steve Gruber comes One Nation by Steve Gruber and the Freedom Project. A powerful new American anthem for the 4th of July. Faith, freedom, and unity in every line. A new release through Real America's Music. One Nation. Pre-save it now. Scan the QR code or search One Nation by Steve Gruber and the Freedom Project on iTunes.
One nation under God, may we always be the home of the brave and the land of the free. For every battle, blood was lost. God bless America, sea to shining sea.
There you go. There's your preview. I will play the whole song coming for you on Friday, but you can pre-order now. One Nation. A labor of love, to say the least. A labor of love. For 250 years, the promise of America has been the freedom to build something of your own, and for millions of families, that dream begins with owning a home. But in the blink of an eye, the American dream can turn into a nightmare. With just some public information and a forged signature, criminals can legally transfer your home ownership into their name, and getting it back, well, months, even years, could be involved, thousands in legal fees just to reclaim what was already yours. That's why we trust the experts at Home Title Lock. With 24/7 title monitoring, urgent alerts, and 100% fraud restoration success rate, they fight for property owners and their loved ones against this growing crime and the criminals that pull it off. And to celebrate America's 250th birthday, they're giving my audience 25% off up to 2 years of title fraud protection. That's over $100 in savings and peace of mind, plus a free title history report. Use the promo code Gruber25 at HomeTitleLock.com. Gruber25 at HomeTitleLock.com. Get protected today. I'll be right back. All right, welcome back to it. All right, so Eric Swalwell, disgraced former member of Congress. Well, he had friends. Maybe he has friends. One of those friends is Ruben Gallego. He's the senator from Arizona. Well, bad news for the senator. It seems from the evidence coming out, Senator Gallego has been using his campaign fund as a slush fund to enrich his lavish lifestyle. Yeah, that's what we call a felony. Let's see. Gallego, through his leadership PAC, has paid for trips to the island getaway of St. Bart's, Disneyland, Disney World, Miami, Chicago, finance filing shows. According to all of that, that's where he's gone. A source familiar with Gallego's spending told Politico that the lawmaker would often bring his family along for the luxury vacations, use donor cash to pay for babysitting services, and the list goes on and on. He just spends his campaign account like it's his personal slush fund. That's a quote. He's using campaign cash to live a luxury lifestyle. That's also a quote. Campaign finance records show that Gallego's leadership PAC and his campaign have collectively paid at least $18,000 for child care, including payments to his wife's mother. It's not breaking news, he told Politico, of expenses for child care and family travel. With the rising cost of child care and the burden it has on the budgets of American families, Democrats and Republicans in Congress and the White House alike regularly travel with their wives and children as it is permitted by the FEC. In one campaign expense, Gallego and Swalwell established a joint fundraising committee that they then used to pay for tickets to watch Super Bowl 62. The event, which cost over $37,000, was billed as a fundraising operation. They went to the Super Bowl on the dime of donors. Yep, that's illegal. Can't do that. Will anything come from it? I have no idea. But now you're informed. Ruben Gallego, Democrat, breaking the rules in Arizona. Nice job, Arizona. Way to send this guy to Washington. When I come back, the elections in D.C. and so much more with Hans von Spakovsky. We'll talk about it coming up. All right, I am here to officially tell you that the Democrat Party is dead. After watching the results out of New York yesterday, two incumbent liberal, progressive Democrat members of Congress lost in the primaries. Dan Goldman, one of them, one of the most outspoken critics of President Trump, kicked to the curb by even more radical leftists from the Democratic Socialists of America. Hans von Spakovsky, a senior legal fellow in Advancing American Freedoms, the Edwin Meese III Institute for the Rule of Law, and a former counsel to the Assistant Attorney General for Civil Rights at the U.S. Department of Justice, joins me now. Hans, good morning.
Good morning, Steve.
What a remarkable thing. The party of even Barack Obama is dead.
Right.
What is your take on this?
Well, look, I'm a thoroughly all-American like you, but my father was a Russian immigrant who dealt with, unfortunately, communist Marxist regimes in both Russia and Yugoslavia. And I could tell you, you're being polite to call these folks getting elected in New York socialists. I mean, they're really Marxists. And anyone who thinks that their policies are a good idea, they are great admirers of Fidel Castro in Cuba, and look at the basket case that Cuba is today because of the kind of policies these people in New York are now pushing. And that's what'll happen to New York if they are successful.
Is this tumor, is this cancer going to metastasize? Because I think it already is. I'm looking at Chicago, Seattle. I'm looking at my own state here of Michigan. Abdul El-Sayed is leading the Democratic field to be their candidate, their nominee for a U.S. Senate seat. He's openly anti-Semitic. He's openly anti-American. I mean, this is not hidden anymore. This is no longer, a secret in the dark. It's out in the open, Hans.
Right. And you'll see a common feature in all of these places, Illinois, New York, California, where we're seeing this. And what is that? All of them are sanctuary states. In other words, they've done everything they can to encourage illegal immigration. New York City, as you know, passed an ordinance to allow aliens, whether they're here legally or illegally, to vote. Now, that was stopped in the courts by the state Supreme Court in New York. But I can tell you, the New York Elections Department, they deliberately, intentionally don't do anything to verify that people are citizens when they're voting. They basically ignore the law. And so you clearly have large numbers of aliens voting in all of these elections, and many of them push these kind of and support these kind of ideas, particularly the anti-Semitism of many Islamic Muslim immigrants. You see that throughout this whole problem.
Well, in fact, the driving issue for many of these voters is I'll just say it, a hatred for Israel and a hatred for Jews. Dan Goldman was run out of a coffee shop in Brooklyn. He was told because he was Jewish, he was no longer welcome there. There's a sitting member of Congress, a Democrat, kicked out of a coffee shop in New York City because he's Jewish. What is this? Germany, 1933?
Well, that's the kind of ideas they're pushing. And don't forget, Nazi stands for the National Socialist Party, because the Nazi Party pushed the same kind of socialist ideas that we're now seeing from Mondami and others. And the anti-Semitism of that 1930s era is preeminent throughout what Mondami and his cohorts are pushing.
Yeah, it's frightening. We'll keep an eye on that. In fact, I would expect a complete monologue tomorrow on this for those of you listening, because I think we're going to dive deep into this cancer that is democratic socialism, that is Marxism, that is Karl Marx and Engels and all of that garbage. And it is garbage, Hans. All right, I want to shift gears just for a moment here. I want to talk about Blanche v. Lau, upholding the deportation of a Chinese resident alien. Speaking of that, the Supreme Court has weighed in. What can you tell us?
You know, what's so shocking about this was that it was a 6-3 decision. Lau was a Chinese citizen who had been granted permanent resident alien status. He left the country to visit China, but when he came back, the customs agent at the border, rather than admitting him, paroled him into the country. Why? Because there were federal criminal charges pending against him for trademark counterfeiting. Now, Steve, you and I know that the Chinese government has been condoning and supporting the theft of American intellectual property for years. The decision yesterday was the fact that he contested the fact that he wasn't just admitted, that he was paroled until a hearing could be held on whether he should be deported. Why? He claimed that the customs agent had to, at the border, prove that he had committed a crime, which of course is a ridiculous claim. What the Supreme Court said, at least 6 of the justices, was no, the fact that he was charged was enough to parole him. The government just had to prove at his deportation hearing that he had committed this crime. And by that time, he'd pled guilty. Can you believe it? The 3 liberal justices supported Lau, basically saying that a customs agent would have to essentially prove a crime at the border, which, as you know, is impractical and ridiculous.
Yeah, they'd have to prove the outcome of a pending legal proceeding, and
Right.
that's preposterous, of course. But the fact that you have, and this was, we talked about the Democratic Socialists and Marxism. That's part of the plan. Pack the Supreme Court so that those 3 justices are not in the minority. And the rule of law is irrelevant. And the Constitution is tossed out the window, as it already has been by so many, Hans. I don't think they're, I wonder if half the members of Congress could pass a civics exam on the Constitution itself. I truly wonder.
No, I think they couldn't.
Yeah, I don't think they could. I think that legal immigrants to America know more about this country and about the Constitution than the people that represent them. And I truly believe that. Anyhow, last word to you.
Well, look, we've still got more than a dozen cases that we're waiting on from the Supreme Court. They're releasing more opinions on Thursday, and we may get some of the really big cases, the important ones like birthright citizenship.
No, that's not going to go the right way for us. The law doesn't read right. The precedents aren't right. I don't feel good about that one, Hans. Do you?
No, I'm hoping they do the right thing, but I'm afraid they might not.
I'm almost certain they will not, because unlike those 3 dissenters, the 6 justices that voted correctly on this actually read and follow the law and do what they're supposed to, which is interpret the law and not write the law. Hans, always a good conversation, sir. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Greatly appreciated. All right, we're going to take a break. It's Daybreak. You can also send me an email at stevegruber.com, stevegruber.com. For any of you that missed the initial drop of One Nation, there's a QR code. When it comes around again, there's a QR code. You can click it with your phone. Pre-order today. An American anthem that stands for this country and faith and the future. We'll have it for you again. I'll be right back. All right, well, if you were here yesterday, you know we took a deep dive into the outgoing information coming from the outgoing and now former DNI, Tulsi Gabbard, releasing never-before-seen documents showing that the United States government funded more than 120 dangerous biolabs across the globe. This week, Gabbard, on her last day, released documents showing Anthony Fauci provided millions of U.S. taxpayer dollars to the very Wuhan lab that is likely responsible for COVID itself. It's remarkable. We did a deep dive yesterday. Today we're going deeper with Peter Gillooly, the CEO of the wellness company. Peter, good morning.
Hey, Steve.
These documents for you and for me and for many people confirmed what we already knew. This was an orchestrated, created illness that was then unleashed on the world. I mean, the evidence is overwhelming, isn't it?
It truly is, Steve. And think back, 5 years ago, we were told that this was a Chinese person eating a bat from a wet market in Wuhan.
Yeah.
And look how far the story has come in that time.
Yeah, it was not a wet market. It was Anthony Fauci, and Fauci dictating the talking points to the intelligence community. Those parts, to me, might be the most shocking. Well, what say you?
I think the real question we need to be asking, Steve, is was this intentional? That's where I am in this story. We have all the evidence now that the U.S. taxpayer funded the creation of COVID. They came to fund these eco-health alliances and all these nonprofits, the same nonprofits, Steve, that President Trump has clamped down on immediately when taking office, like USAID. But EcoHealth Alliance, and that has funded money to all of these biolabs that is creating these very dangerous bioweapons that, we have poor containment policies and leak into the world. So I think the real question, Steve, is was this actually intentionally released? And I think we can surmise at this point that there's evidence that, yes, it may very well have been. There was preparation talks before COVID about very similar viruses. It was a little too uncanny, in my opinion.
Yeah, the same people that told us ivermectin was a horse dewormer, it wasn't for people, even though it had been taken by millions of people around the globe, still is today. I think it's important to ask, though, Peter, in your opinion, will there ever be accountability for these lies and for the dangerous policy? Look, Tulsi Gabbard also pointed out 120 biolabs around the world funded by U.S. taxpayers. The one in Wuhan was just one of 120. Is anybody going to be held responsible? Will we stop the policies that killed millions of people?
Let's start with Fauci. I think he's the most important one we have to go after first, and I'm glad that Senator Rand Paul is taking this seriously and looking at ways that we can get him back into court. I think that auto pen preemptive pardon that Joe Biden signed is absolute nonsense, and that needs to be thrown out in a court of law. And Fauci needs to be held accountable for his actions.
Yeah, absolutely true. The further we get from COVID, it seems like people have just forgotten what happened. In particular, we forget the role that Big Pharma and its allies in the government played in creating and strengthening and lengthening the COVID pandemic. I mean, they made it worse, measurably worse. Should Americans continue to be concerned about the power and influence of Big Pharma on our healthcare policy today?
I really think so, Steve. And it's a sad state of affairs where lobbyists and corporations are essentially the fourth branch of government in our country. But that's effectively what we have here. Big Pharma funds so many politicians, so many doctors, so many hospitals. I mean, they rely on the pharmaceutical companies to keep the lights on. So it's a big concern, in my opinion, because we're not getting necessarily the most unbiased, objective view at what keeps it healthy. We're getting the view that keeps these companies the most profitable, and those things are not the same.
Trust the science, they told us, while giving us junk science. That lack of trust in healthcare opened the door for companies like the Wellness Company, not part of the broken healthcare establishment. Talk to us why it's so important for consumers to have healthcare professionals and companies like yours that they can trust.
I think it's critical, and we saw during COVID and the pandemic that sleepy general practitioner that you may have been seeing for the past 40 years didn't really have a great beat on what was actually going on and didn't really know anything except what he was conveyed back in med school or from the pharmaceutical companies at the latest convention. You need doctors that can think objectively. We need doctors that can look holistically at people and recognize that health just isn't taking a prescription that every day for the rest of your life. It's everything you do. It's family, it's diet, it's exercise. It's looking at natural solutions that are oftentimes just as effective as allopathic solutions. That's really what I think Americans need to wake up to and incorporate into their healthcare plans.
Yeah. Now, we learned a lot of hard lessons during COVID, for those of us that remember, like you and I. One of the most important lessons was the need for individuals to be prepared and not simply rely on the government for health care or much of anything for that matter. For millions of Americans who don't want to repeat the disaster of COVID and want to be prepared, what do you recommend?
Steve, we recently published a study around our medical emergency kits, and I'm sure we can find another time to talk more deeply into it. But we've sold hundreds of thousands of these to Americans across the country, and we have such amazing tangible data that these are actually helping people in terms of helping them avoid missing work, avoid spoiling a holiday travel, feeling better in record time. And I think that having the ability to take your health care into your own hands with a medical emergency kit at home can really not only prevent these bad outcomes like missed work or emergency room visits, but maybe save lives. And that's what it's all about.
That's what it is all about. Peter Gillooly, CEO of the Wellness Company. Always a good conversation, Peter. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve.
Those emergency kits look much like this. I have one on my desk because I want you to see how convenient they are. This is the original, but they also have a contagion kit, a kit for kids, an emergency kit, a first aid kit, all sorts of things, no matter what your need might be, and a travel kit. You can throw it right in your suitcase and not get caught without. Go to twc.health/Gruber, twc.health/Gruber. Use the promo code Gruber. You're going to save at least 10%. Have one of these emergency medical kits available so that when things hit the fan, you've got a plan. twc.health/Gruber, promo code Gruber, save at least 10%. I'll be right back. All right, back to it now. Glad to see you here. Look, here's something that might make you feel a little bit better about the day. I mean, it already feels pretty good. You're here, so you can't feel too bad, right? The deep state firings have begun. That's the quote. Bill Pulte is slashing jobs at the Office of Director of National Intelligence. He is the acting DNI right now. I don't know if he'll get the job. But what I do know is he's getting the job done by kicking people out that have been there for too long, that are rooted in the wrong ideology, if you will, not aligned with this administration. Cleaning house is what he's doing. The deep state firing's begun. That's what CNN was told Monday. It is unclear how many people have been fired, but it is plural. They're showing them the door. Federal housing regulator Bill Pulte showed up to work a day early last Thursday and asked for a list of all employees as he decided whom to fire. You're gone, you're gone, you're gone. President Trump announced his nomination of U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, Jay Clayton, to serve as Director of National Intelligence. However, Trump postponed Clayton's confirmation until the senators confirm his replacement for U.S. Attorney to the Southern District of New York. He's playing hardball, you see. Playing hardball, you see. Anyhow, the firings at the DNI office have begun. You know, I wonder how those folks feel about Tulsi Gabbard, you know, just telling the truth and just smashing it out of the park. Hey, 120 biolabs. Hey, Fauci was lying like we all knew, and here are the receipts. Here's 1,000 documents or more. Good stuff. I'm fired up today. Why? Because I slept like a champ. Why do I sleep like a champ, you ask? Because of Ghost Bed. We've had the Ghost Bed now for about 4 months, and it's lovely. It's just lovely. It's got cooling technology, so here in the middle of summer, I'm not roasting. I'm not tossing around. I'm not getting stuck to the sheets at 2 in the morning because my face is sweaty. None of that stuff. It's American made, and by the way, it's about half the price of the big competitors. So if you want a new bed that's American made and is great and I love, it's Ghost Bed. And here's the good news. You can try it for 101 days. 101 days. If you don't love it, they'll pick it up at your door and they'll take it away. I think you will. But if you don't, you've got it covered. 101 days, no problem. All right? Ghostbed.com, promo code Gruber. An extra 10% off for 4th of July. Financing available too. Ghostbed.com/Gruber. Use the promo code Gruber. You're going to save money right now on an American-made sleeping system that I love. More after the top of the hour.
Thunder.
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now on Real America's Voice.
All right, welcome back to it as we jump right into it. Fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. Love to have you on board for a beautiful Wednesday. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, a drag queen, vice president of a school board, in jail today after being arrested on child pornography and endangerment charges. This is another problem with out-of-control ideologies, and it's just another bit of evidence for you. Number two, at the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, firings have commenced, as I just talked about, cleaning out what many refer to as deep state operatives. And Bill Pulte, the acting DNI, is swinging the axe hard. There are a lot of things, number three, that I wanted to talk about this hour, but really I want to talk about this country. I have a deep love for this country. And we're almost to the 4th of July, 250 years. I remember the bicentennial. I was a kid watching the parades and all the bumper stickers and all the stuff going on. I loved it. And I hope we're going to love it this time around as well. Ivy's joining me now. The problem, Ivy, is that I see a lot of people, I'm not going to celebrate the 4th of July. America's a bad place. I'm like,
just dumb.
You're just dumb.
Take a little clue from all of the Europeans that are currently visiting our country that are having eye-opening experiences saying, man, our media is getting it wrong.
No, their media is lying to them about America. And it's true for those from South America, Central America, Europe, like you mentioned, Asia. You see these people, they're in love with America, and not just American food. They love that, but they love us.
Yeah, I was giggling because they were remarking, a lot of the videos I've seen recently were remarking on the portion sizes, including like the pop that you get, soda that you get, and the food. They're just like, oh my gosh, look at all this.
Yeah, it's just, here's a burger. It's the size of your head. Enjoy.
Or pizzas or whatever.
Or
the
whatever.
Case may be.
And with that in mind,
I wonder what they think about the big gulp and the super big gulp and the double gulp.
Double gulp,
Didn't even know there's so many options.
Yeah. I can't imagine.
And now there's the gallon gulp.
Oh,
you
good
can actually
Lord.
get it in like a pouch. It's like a gallon.
That's disgusting.
It's too much. I mean, if you're buying it for 3 or 4 people, that's different. But
they're not. They're not buying for 3 or 4 people. Well, anyhow, with that in mind, I want to share with the folks, Ivy, a project you and I have been working on for the last several weeks called One Nation. Because this country needs to come together. We need to be together in this. And we've got a preview of a song that is going to release on Friday. You were deeply involved. I was deeply involved. And our good friend Laura Kokenauer was deeply involved. Here's a preview.
From prayer to purpose to a promise that still stands. From Rav's own Steve Gruber comes One Nation by Steve Gruber and the Freedom Project. A powerful new American anthem for the 4th of July. Faith, freedom, and unity in every line. A new release through Real America's Music. One Nation. Pre-save it now. Scan the QR code or search One Nation by Steve Gruber and the Freedom Project on iTunes.
One nation under God, may we always be the home of the brave and the land of the free. For every battle, blood was lost. God bless America, sea to shining sea.
And that's the pre-order opportunity for you right there, the QR code. We'll share that again today and tomorrow. But it's been a fun project. Laura is so talented.
Fun and challenging and rewarding.
I almost had 2 aneurysms. That's not important, though.
You know what I love is music really does have a way to bring people together. And what better way than a patriotic song about America? It's just incredible.
Just in time
so
for the 4th of July.
So grateful to be part of this project, and I hope everyone loves it as much as we do.
Yeah, it's been a labor of love. And I love this country. I think it comes through in this song, from you to me to Laura to all the other people that are involved. There's a whole team of people involved. And really proud of what we did here. So that's coming out Friday. All right, that's coming out Friday. That's your pre-order if you'd like to get on the list, and we appreciate it if you did. Let's see if people around the country and around the world like it. Anyhow, Ivy, what else you got?
I want to go back to your bite one. You were talking about drag queen principal. Is that what it was?
Vice president of the school board, one of them. I don't know. You might have a principal. It just keeps coming up in the headlines.
So, Anthony, I have that. It's a B-roll bite that I pulled, and this is in Illinois, where a group of school kids have gone out to, this drag show, and they're all holding like dollar bills.
When I went on field trips as a kid in elementary school, we'd go to like the museum or the library. We didn't go to drag shows.
Well, this is the deal. I mean, my opinion here is that this really tells kids that it's okay to sell your body for money or to be promiscuous or to be inappropriate. And this is a terrible thing to put in the minds of children. And this is not something that children should be involved in. I would be extremely angry if my child came home and said, hey, Mommy, look at what I did this afternoon.
My kid wouldn't be there.
During my field trip. Oh my gosh, I would lose my mind.
Yeah.
Because this is just absolutely inappropriate. And what are your thoughts?
I absolutely agree with you on there's no business. We went to the library, we went to museums, we'd go to the park, for elementary. I don't want high school kids doing this.
Yeah, agreed.
What is the point of this except to indoctrinate? Oh, you can be a deviant.
Oh, it's funny. Ha ha ha. The drag queen gets to get some money and the kids get to participate and it's fun. No, it's confusing and it's sexualization and it's wrong.
It's evil.
It's evil.
That's what it is.
I agree,
it's evil. Sexualizing children. And then, again, we go back to these headlines like that vice president of the school board being arrested for, sexual exploitation of a child.
And how many stories have we heard where, men, biological men entering a woman's bathroom, pretending to be a woman, and then there's some sort of inappropriate behavior that goes on, and then they're arrested. So many of these stories that are circulating around, we need to protect women. We need to protect children. And this is just absolutely wrong, and people need to stand up and start saying so. Be bold. But I do want to switch gears really quickly while we have time. I want you to hear this Bill Maher. Nancy Pelosi is on with Bill Maher. And I just want the first few. I'll tell you when to quit, Anthony, but continue. Go ahead.
California lawmakers just passed a law. It hasn't been signed by Governor Newsom, but giving government assistance to undocumented immigrants to buy houses. That's kind of a different place than the Democratic Party used to be on immigration, is it not? I'm not going to say that's what the country's going to do, but that's certainly where California is.
Well, let me just say, immigration had always been a bipartisan issue. I refer you to
but not free houses.
Well, that's not free housing. It's the American dream being available to more people. But understand this about immigration. The best speech on immigration was by President Ronald Reagan. This is the last speech I will make as President of the United States. I want to communicate a message to the country.
He didn't communicate, come here illegally so we can give you a free house, free food, free cell phone, free Wi-Fi, free entertainment. We didn't do that.
Exactly.
That's outrageous.
And she says immigration has always been bipartisan, and it's not free houses. It's the American dream being available to more people. Well, by those other American people that are paying for it through taxation.
That's right. Ivy will be back in a bit. Ivy, love you. Thank you, as always. We'll take a break and be back. It's Daybreak. Nice to see you on a Wednesday. right, back to it now. Glad to have you here on a Wednesday. So many bases to cover. We want to get to the next round of conversation here. Look, Jeremy Dice is an attorney, a senior counsel for First Liberty. Trump 2.0, putting religious liberty, let me say that more clearly, Christian liberty and Jewish liberty back on offense as we see all these crazy things going on around the country. Jeremy, glad to have you here.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, so one of the things that Donald Trump did is he put a faith office in place, which was a new office in the White House, planting a flag for Christianity and Judaism and the founding principle of this country back in the center of our government. That was a big step, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, it was huge. And what came with that are really two things that are of equal importance, perhaps. One is the Religious Liberty Commission that's been meeting for about the last year. My boss, Kelly Shackelford, has sat on that commission for the last year. I had the privilege of testifying to that commission last September, right before the president actually showed up and spoke to the rest of the commission and those that were gathered there for that as well. Quite an event. But at the same time, he signed that executive order establishing the commission. He signed an order establishing what's called the Anti-Christian Bias Task Force. And his job that he gave to the Department of Justice and then through all the rest of the agencies was to go agency by agency to figure out how or if the previous administration, the Biden administration, had weaponized the federal government against, in specific, Christians in the United States of America. And the findings of that has been just rather stark and shocking, frankly, seeing that the law was not equally applied to people of faith in this country, especially Christians in this country.
Well, if you're a Catholic, you were really put in the crosshairs. The Southern Poverty Law Center, working hand in hand with the Biden administration, smeared any Christian organization they could find that had basic American values and would place them on a hate list, put a pin in the map for them. I mean, this was part of the messaging, wasn't it?
It certainly was, and part of the intentionality of the Department of Justice. Look, there's the report that the Anti-Christian Bias Task Force just came out with is, I think, nearing 500 pages in the body of the document, but then there's another like 300 pages of footnotes. It's overwhelming, and the evidence that it shows is that the Department of Justice colluded with numerous stakeholders outside of the department to target people of faith, in particular Christians. Let me give you a couple of examples just to say what we're talking about. My client, Heartbeat of Miami, was a pregnancy care center down in Miami. I should say they are a pregnancy care center down in Miami. They still exist. But right after Dobbs came out, when the Supreme Court overturned Roe versus Wade, they were vandalized by the same wave of violence that took place across the entire country in response to that decision, unexcusable violence that took place. Well, all these pregnancy care centers that were vandalized, had bricks thrown through their windows, that had graffiti scrawled across their doors or their walls or the front stoop or whatever it might be. I have another client up in Massachusetts who had vandals come on with light bulbs filled with red paint and threw it against the walls of their building to mimic blood and saying, if abortions aren't safe, neither are you. Well, what did the Department of Justice do in response to this? There was a law on the books, there still is, called the FACE Act. They could have protected these groups. They could have gone after these vandals and punished them under criminal law as well as this FACE Act. But they did nothing, and they intentionally did nothing, apparently, during that time until the pressure became too much to ignore, and then they had to do something, and they made an example out of just a few people down in Miami in support of our client. But what was happening at the same time? Well, pro-lifers who sat inside or right outside of the doors of an abortion clinic in Tennessee, they had the book thrown at them. They were singing hymns in the hallway, peacefully protesting. They had the full weight of the Department of Justice went after them at the request of activists outside of the Department of Justice. Even on top of that, when they went to defend themselves in court and their attorneys asked the Department of Justice for information that they uniquely had, they were denied that information in the ability to defend their own clients. And so this inequitable application of the law is just absolutely shocking. I don't know that it's terribly surprising, but it is still nonetheless shocking that we would have an entire department committed to justice going after people of faith for doing nothing more than being people of faith.
Yeah. You know, it's not a secondary right. And let's be clear about this. You know, not one Islamic organization made the SPLC list of being a hate group. Not one. And I could go down the list, and you understand my point. They targeted Christian groups, Jewish groups, pro-life groups, Catholic groups. That was the targeting. And the SPLC might as well have been the propaganda arm for the Biden administration, the Department of Justice during those years, because they worked hand in hand. Like I said, they worked in coordination with each other. And so how do we put this back on the right track? The Faith Office is a great step. The Religious Liberty Commission, another great step. But I don't feel like enough is being done from what I'm seeing. There's still a lot more work to correct all of this damage. Your thoughts?
There's always more work to be done to protect our very first liberty in our First Amendment. And so we should unite as a country around that galvanized principle that all people of faith deserve religious liberty in this country. And I'm glad to see this administration leading the charge on that very thing. I think we're going to see very shortly recommendations by the Religious Liberty Commission being given to the president. I suspect that those recommendations are going to be very thorough. And what I expect out of that is that the departments that receive that through the presidency are going to begin to implement those recommendations throughout the entire federal government. We should also see people like the United States Congress. Now, I don't have a lot of hope here. If they can't agree on a budget, I'm not sure they can do much else. But if the United States Congress is committed to the First Amendment as they say they are, then I'd like to see them take a few actionable steps that would defend and define religious liberty even further for people of faith. But here's where I want to sort of leave everybody with the good news here, is that where we have been through a very dark period with the Biden administration, and think of all the rights that have been trampled during that time. That report shows it very clearly. And we can think of just the terrible time we had during COVID and all the things we experienced during that time with regard to our religious liberty rights and rights of conscience. I think of my Navy SEAL clients who were denied the critical care that they deserved and the accommodations they need, all of that stuff, right?
We're on the right track. I have to leave it there, Jeremy, but we are at least on the right track finally. But like 100%. You said, a lot of work to be done. You come back anytime. We'll talk more about it, sir. Thank you.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Greatly appreciated. Would like to hear just a little bit more, but such is the nature of hard breaks in broadcast. I'll be right back. All right, back to it now. Glad to have you on board. Here's some good news for you. You would think, based on the messaging from the left and CNN and NBC and those folks and all the others on the left, that Americans are so broke they're not doing anything. Well, it doesn't seem to be the case. Another forecast for record travel this summer. Despite higher gas prices, despite higher interest rates, despite everything, Americans are going to travel more in 2026 over the 4th of July and the summer break than any year before. That's an actual, that climate change thing must be driving tourism. That's all I can figure out. Summer travel forecast by Expedia says that there will be a spike in national park interest as well. And with all these tourists in town for FIFA, for the soccer, it seems they're going to national parks too, going, my God, look at this. Sequoia and Yellowstone, Acadia, and Smoky Mountains, all the great national parks we have. They're loving it, and, well, the prediction is more people are going to love them going forward. Many of you have struggled to lose weight. You lose it, then you gain it back. What if I told you it's not your fault? It's not points or shakes or living at the gym. If it was willpower, you'd already have it done. What if I told you your metabolism is not broken? It's just turned off at the moment. I know some folks that can figure it out and fix it for you. Go to GruberHealth.com, book a free consultation, see if it's a good fit. It's all natural. You eat real food, no exercise needed. Turn on your metabolism and do it naturally. Learn the strategies to keep the weight off. It's My Pure Health, a program I did in 2018. They've been a partner with me here on this program ever since. And you know what? I get the emails from you. People that say, my God, it saved my life. It changed my life. It made me healthier. Going for a walk was fun again. My knees didn't hurt. If you'd like to feel better, give my friends a call at My Pure Health. All you have to do is book an appointment. Go to GruberHealth.com. GruberHealth.com. Missy and her team are there for you. They've been changing lives on this program since 2018. Right now, 25% off. It's the best deal you're going to get. Be healthy. GruberHealth.com. I'll be right back. All right, back at it now. Kurt Couchman is a senior fiscal policy fellow at the Americans for Prosperity, and he says to end shutdowns responsibly, put Congress's time on the line, put their money on the line, make it pinch them a little financially, and we might get some different results. Kurt, welcome to the program.
That's right. Thanks for having me, Steve. Always good to see you.
Nice to see you, my friend. You know, if it pinches them in the pocket, look, if there's a government shutdown, maybe the members of Congress, the House and the Senate should get no paycheck, just like the people at the TSA or the Coast Guard had to suffer through more than once this year. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, Congress should be pinched. The thing is, though, that they are much more equal on time than they are on money. I mean, the average or the median U.S. senator is worth more than $4 million. And there's only a few of them that are living like normal people and really depend on their paychecks. But they are all equal on time. Yeah, maybe different demands on their time, but supply of time is fixed for all of us. And so that's the genius of the Prevent Government Shutdowns Act, is that it says that, hey, you guys are going to be stuck in D.C. until you get the appropriations bills done every single year. And in the meantime, there will be no disruptions for regular Americans who are not responsible for all of the infighting and dysfunction in D.C.
You know, it's interesting. We're on our way to the August recess. We already had a couple of recesses, and they go home during the government shutdowns. I mean, they're putting in a blistering 20 hours a week, some of them. You know, I mean, it's come on, Kurt. It's a dream job.
Senate, that's right.
It's a dream
job. Yeah, I mean,
job.
although the truth is they're doing a lot of work back at home as well. But Congress isn't providing the results that the American people expect and deserve. And so this is part of the solution in getting them to do that work, focusing on the art of the possible, not pretending that there's shutdown leverage. It doesn't exist. We've never seen a shutdown result in the kinds of policy results that people claim they are pushing for. I remember being furloughed in 2013 during what I call lovingly the Ted Cruz shutdown. And, you know, we didn't defund Obamacare. I wish we could have, but it didn't happen. And, you know, Democrats didn't extend the expanded Obamacare subsidies last year when they shut down the government for an unprecedented 40 however many days. They also didn't do anything with respect to immigration enforcement with the DHS shutdown earlier this year. So it doesn't work. Let's take it off the table. Let's get Congress actually working for the people again.
Yeah, it would be nice. Look, things that the American people support in big numbers we can't get. Now, some of that's, you know, partisanship and you know, power plays and so forth, like the Save America Act. People like ID. It's not a hard, it's a low bar. It's low-hanging fruit. You can't get there. When you talk about budgets, back and forth, you can't get there. Everybody wants their, you know, their little extra piece of the pie and their pork spending. You can't get there. Is the system broken permanently, or is this what we're just going to deal with? I mean, where are we, Kurt? Is this the way it's always going to be?
Well, the system is broken right now, but it doesn't have to be permanently. That's up to Congress and those of us who are pushing Congress to do better. I mean, preventing shutdowns is something that has 81% support from the American people.
There you go.
66% would be more likely to vote for someone who backed taking that off the table. And 80% want Congress to actually have up or down votes on the legislation that we've been discussing here. So that's one piece of it. Another big piece is for Congress to do a real budget that has everything in it and includes everyone. Both of these pieces, by the way, are something that we are working on in our AFP Michigan chapter, because the Michigan legislature should be much more effective than it is as well. And that's really just drawing from best practices in other places, including Wisconsin, which has done both of those things for a very long time. And they have their issues, but on the whole, their budget process works a whole lot better.
Yeah, you know, Michigan's an interesting case. I just learned this week, Kurt, the entire budget for the state of Illinois is $56 billion. Michigan's is $84 billion. You look at Georgia, North Carolina, both about the same size as Michigan, relatively speaking. They're $30 billion or less as well. Pennsylvania, the same, $30 billion less. I have no idea what the Democrats in Michigan, because they control the House, the Senate, and the governor's office. There was a $9 billion surplus when they showed up. It's gone. And we've raised the spending in the state by $30 billion. It was in the mid-50s 7.5 years ago. Now it's in the mid-80s. You know, the taxpayers out here, we're a little confused, Kurt. We're going the wrong way. And I see other states that could potentially head the same way. Conversely, states like South Carolina eliminating income tax, Tennessee, Florida, Texas prospering. Can they not see the obvious?
It's becoming increasingly obvious. I mean, you look at people voting with their feet, and Minnesota is actually in a terrible situation. People are leaving in droves. If you think Michigan is having some tough times, then what Minnesota policymakers have done is just so much worse. And we're seeing people leaving places like that in California and New York and going to places like Florida and Utah and Idaho and the other states that you mentioned. So these things can be fixed. They do have real consequences. And the key, at least for Congress, is to forge these bipartisan coalitions to make the changes. The Prevent Government Shutdowns Act, for instance, has 6 Democrats as well as 15 Republicans in the Senate on board. Gary Peters from Michigan, of course, is not one of those co-sponsors, but he voted for a very similar bill back in 2019 in committee, and along with then Senator Kamala Harris. And Senator Slotkin, when she was a representative, new in her career, she actually co-sponsored legislation very much along those lines. So neither one of them are on the bill, but they should be. They've expressed support for things like this before, and that's the way to start fixing things.
So you're hopeful. I mean, with 6 Democrats,
Absolutely.
I mean, 6 Democrats on board with anything the Republicans are doing is well, it's kind of remarkable. And so that's a step in the right direction.
But of course, there's always a rearguard action by the forces of the status quo that want to protect what they know and what they think benefits them. Senator Patty Murray, the senior Democratic appropriator, is working with a group called the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities to paint this in the worst possible light. And the arguments don't hold up, but they do have an impact on a lot of Democratic members. So we are working with the leads on this legislation to counter those claims, the misleading claims, so that people understand, so that senators understand why this is good for them, but it's especially good for the American people.
Yeah, and I hope that this goes through. It is the Prevent Government Shutdown Act. It's smart policy, Kurt. We cannot go through this every time these guys don't agree on something. Oh, we'll just shut the government down. We'll punish American workers because we can't get something done in Washington. It's a terrible procedure and a terrible precedent. Kurt, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. Always good to be with you.
Good to be with you, my friend. Yeah, and I don't think it's going to get any better in the next Congress, by the way. I don't see it getting any better in the next Congress. We'll see what happens. But what do you think about that? Send me an email, stevegruber.com. Always want to know what you're thinking out there. stevegruber.com. Send me an email. During my afternoon show, Americans Voice Live, we read those emails oftentimes on Fridays. So you send me an email, it might just end up in lights. You'll be famous, rich and famous. I'll take a break and be right back. All right, back to it now. So many interesting things cross the desk every day, and I'm like, how much can I get in? You know, the Supreme Court rejected a Michigan family's claim that the county took their home and didn't pay them adequately. The Supreme Court said, yeah, they did. You didn't pay your taxes, and they paid you. Maybe not what you thought it was worth, but what they got for it. I don't know how you feel about that. There was a $2,200 property tax debate. I hate property taxes. I do. I'd like your thoughts on that one at stevegruber.com. Here's another one. Senator John Kennedy does as only he can do. He's in a congressional hearing, and he's got all these people in front of him. And he starts looking at their credentials, and he goes, I don't know why you're here. I mean, just listen to this.
Mr. Carbone, you seem to be here to promote cryptocurrency. I love cryptocurrency, but I don't think that's the problem with our economy. Mr. Brown, you're here to promote realtors. I love realtors, but that's not going to solve our economic problems. Ms. Johnson's here to promote banks. I love banks. Dr. Morgan is here to bash Trump without telling us that she formerly was part of the Biden administration and worked for Mr. Chopra at the CFPB, and that your policies caused inflation to go to 9%. I think that those would have been relevant things to tell us. I guess you thought we were going to look up your background. Can we agree that the problem of affordability is the prices are too high? Duh. Does anybody disagree with that? And prices are too high because of inflation. Does anybody disagree with that? And inflation, despite Dr. Morgan's political beliefs, is not just a Trump problem, it was a Biden problem. Was it not?
He is so smart, and he uses humor to tear these people apart. I just think that he's a national treasure. I do. Maybe the problem with the economy. Maybe the problem with the economy is that we give all of our money away. I mean, how much money? A lot of people complain about how much money we give to Israel. Well, that's just one little piece of what the United States taxpayers expected to give away to the rest of the world, right? They take your money and then they give it to this NGO and this nonprofit and this group over here and this group over there, and who knows what the hell it's for. I mean, I don't. They don't. They don't even know what happens to the money. According to the State Department, listen to this. According to the State Department, only 10% of foreign aid, 10%, actually goes where it belongs or is intended for. Listen to this.
We are not ending foreign aid. We are making it more nimble. We are operating at the speed of relevancy to making sure that the millions and billions of dollars that we spend on aid get to where it is meant to go. There is nothing to be proud of when 90%, according to Samantha Powers, is not even making it to the people to whom it was promised. These are promises. Donald Trump makes promises and he keeps them. Promises made, promises kept. We will be doing that also now with foreign aid, with the new structure of how this will be working. We are, of course, it is in our DNA. We exist in large part because of the nature of what America stands for, as a beacon of hope for the future for the world. We've died on that principle, we live on that principle, and we are giving foreign aid on that principle, but it will be functional, it will be auditable, we will know where it's going, and we will see results.
And we will see results. Well, the jury's out on that. We'll find out. We'll see results. One of the things we send money to other countries for is for health care, right? We send money for health care. Meanwhile, in this country, we spend a lot of money on health care, too, and it's a terribly inefficient system. It's awful. Money gets chewed up, big pharma gets rich, the big health care organizations get rich, and you get screwed, generally speaking. Well, how wonderful is universal health care anyway? I mean, it's what the left wants. They want universal health care for everybody because, a single-payer system would be the greatest thing ever, they say. Everybody will get great health care. It'll be cheap. Everybody. How's it going in Canada? How's that universal health care thing going in Canada? Here's a woman who has firsthand experience. Listen to this story.
Today, my daughter woke up and she has an ear infection. And she said, Mom, I got a really bad ear infection. I need you to call the doctor. I need some medication. So I said, okay, no problem. So I gave the doctor a call and I said, my daughter, she's 12. She needs some medication. She has an ear infection. And they said, sorry, we can't get her in. And I said, okay, no problem. How about tomorrow? And I said, this week? And they said, sorry, no. So my daughter can't get into our doctor to get medication for her ear infection. I have to take her to either a walk-in clinic or to the ER. And if you know anything about Canadian hospitals, where we'll be sitting there for at least 8 hours with an ear infection to get antibiotics. And it was just that little reminder that I needed why I need to get the hell out of Canada and into the States. Canadian healthcare is a joke. My daughter, who is crying over an ear infection, there's no help. I can't get help even if I paid for it. It's broken.
There's your universal health care system in just one story. Think about that. By the way, President Trump says big oil companies not dropping their price at the pump commensurate with sharply lower prices they're paying for oil. Those prices are dropping like a rock. In other words, customers are being gouged, wrote the president on Truth Social. I've instructed the Department of Justice to immediately start looking into this. Gasoline prices better start going down a lot faster than what I'm seeing. President Donald J. Trump, I did say, Mr. President, give them a call on the red phone and say, Mr. Oil Executive, you better drop the prices or something bad's going to happen. You've got the red phone, Mr. President. You can call me, too. I'll be right back. All right, time to check in on sports with Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. Round 1 of the NBA draft was last night at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, New York. With the first pick, the Washington Wizards took BYU freshman A.J. Dibanza. At pick number 2, the Utah Jazz took Kansas freshman Darren Patterson. Round 2 of the draft is tonight in Brooklyn. At the World Cup, there were 4 games yesterday. Portugal shut out Uzbekistan 5-0. England and Ghana played to a scoreless draw. Croatia shut out Panama 1-0, and Colombia beat the Congo 1-0. There are 6 more group games today. A full schedule of games in Major League Baseball yesterday. American League winners included the New York Yankees, Kansas City, and Seattle. National League winners included Philadelphia, the Chicago Cubs, and San Diego. And in the WNBA last night, there was just one game. It was the New York Liberty over the Las Vegas Aces, 87-76. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
Colombia beat the Congo? Man, my brackets are blown. Yeah, that's it. Colombia beat the Congo. Now we know. AMAC exists for one reason, to fight for you, while organizations like AARP grow closer to big government every day. AMAC is growing stronger in Washington to defend the values that made America great: faith, family, freedom, and opportunity. AMAC believes in freedom of religion and speech, the right to keep and bear arms, free enterprise, and personal responsibility. Common sense solutions instead of government control. And AMAC refuses to stand by while radical policies from blue states threaten our families, our livelihoods, our safety, and our future. AMAC is no longer just an alternative to AARP. They are the leading conservative voice for seniors and patriotic Americans. With a rapidly expanding presence in Washington, AMAC is standing toe-to-toe with AARP's massive lobbying machine and winning. Join AMAC today. Help us replace failed big government policies with common sense, pro-America solutions. America needs AMAC. AMAC needs you. Stand with us today. Just go to amac.us/RAV. amac.us/RAV. I'll take a break and be back with hour number 3 after this.
America's awake, and we're just getting started. The headlines that matter, the stories they won't tell you, and the voices fighting to be heard. This is your country, your morning, your daybreak with Steve and Ivy Gruber. A new hour starts right now.
All right, jumping right back into it here. Hour number 3 here on a Wednesday. Glad to have you on board, fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom. Here are 3 big things you need to know this hour. Number 1, oil down to $71 a barrel, and yet gas went up a little bit last night. President Trump not impressed, says he's having the Department of Justice investigate gouging by the big oil companies. It's about time. Number 2, the Iran negotiations continue. We'll see if we can get peace. I'm cautiously optimistic, but not really optimistic, not yet. And number 3, the Democrats are panicked, as they should be. A far-left surge of Marxists, of democratic socialists, which is just a funny name for Marxism, swept all the big races in New York. New York City Socialist Mayor Zohran Mamdani did it again. 1 year after sending political shockwaves across the country with his primary victory on the way to winning the job as mayor in New York City, he easily passed the test, upending the entire Democrat Party establishment. Here's what happened. The mayor's most shocking victory came in New York's 13th congressional district. Mamdani-backed candidate Eliza Avila Chevalier, a 32-year-old community organizer and socialist Democrat, topped incumbent Democrat Adriano Espaillat, a 71-year-old member of Congress, the leader of the Hispanic Caucus. First Dominican-American elected to the U.S. House, gone after a decade. He was supported by a slew of party leaders, including the governor, Kathy Hochul, and Hakeem Jeffries. And none of that mattered. Espaillat, who had been in Congress for a decade, is gone. In the race to succeed retiring new Democratic Congresswoman Nydia Velázquez, Mamdani's endorsed candidate, State Assembly member Claire Valdez, also a far-left radical, won easily. And the biggest one to me, Dan Goldman, one of Donald Trump's harshest critics, is gone. Beat by Brad Lander, another far-left radical endorsed by Mamdani. New York is gone. Soon we can call it New London again, if you get my drift. Mike Rogers in Michigan says he's also concerned. He's the Republican running for U.S. Senate in Michigan. The leading Democratic contender in Michigan, Abdul El-Sayed, another far-left radical, DSA type, anti-Semitic, hates America. From what that's my opinion looking at it. Here's what Mike Rogers has to say about it.
This guy is as crazy and as out there as you can imagine. He wants to take away 300,000 UAW workers' health care plans and turn it over to the federal government. And by the way, those UAW members are calling us every day now saying, hey, how do we help you? So he's kind of that mini Mamdani running around the state of Michigan and wants to kind of do the same kinds of things that Mamdani did in New York, taking away freedom. So we've been running around saying, listen, you want common sense solutions for Michigan, or do you want crazy? Do you want protect our families, protect our freedoms, protect our factories? Or do you want crazy? And I think people are starting to come to the conclusion here that this guy's dangerous for the state. When you go down all of the kind of crazy rhetoric he's talked about, including, by the way, can't even condemn the guy that loaded his car full of explosives and pulled into a synagogue to kill 130 children. He said, well, you could understand how somebody would do that. I'm sorry. No, you can't.
I'm sorry. No, you can't. Mike Rogers, spot on. Mike Rogers, I believe, will win the Senate race in Michigan if Abdul El-Sayed is the opponent. But do not underestimate these people. George Soros and his cronies will plug in millions of dollars. They hate America. I love America. I love this country. Drive around, talk to people. Look at this incredible nation we have. These people want to trash it at every turn. Give your money away to illegal aliens. Open the borders. Make health care universal like it is in Canada, and how awful that is. Take away the UAW health care and turn it over to the federal government. How do the union members feel? How do your union members feel about that? You negotiate a contract, they don't care. They're going to take it away from you. That's their plan. By the way, Donald Trump was in Pennsylvania yesterday at a Mack truck plant. Big, beautiful Mack trucks, the big bulldog on the hood. And a member of Congress there stepped to the podium to talk about how the economy is going in Pennsylvania. Listen to this.
Since President Trump and I have taken offices, companies have rushed to build, invest, and expand here in our community. We recently saw Eli Lilly investing billions of dollars in a new facility in Upper Macungie, which will create 850 new jobs. Nokia is expanding its operations in the Lehigh Valley and adding 250 jobs. B. Braun is adding 200 additional jobs in Hanover Township. And here at Mack, we are making sure that American truck manufacturers have the level playing field they deserve so more people get hired right here in the Lehigh Valley.
Sounds like things are going pretty well in Pennsylvania. Of course, they've not gone radical crazy left yet. That thing in New York is metastasizing into Michigan, into Chicago, into Seattle. Where have the Democrats gone? Where are the Democrats? Hakeem Jeffries is going to get primaried out. Seriously. Maybe not this, obviously not this time, but maybe next time around. You know, when Dan Goldman, now soon to be a former member of Congress, goes into a coffee shop in New York and is told he is not welcome because he's Jewish, that tells you that things are not normal at all. Not normal at all. A closed circuit announcement for those of you living in mid-Michigan, in the capital city area. At Doty Service Network, we know a comfortable home means everything to your family. That's why we've expanded our services. Same great people, new name, and now plumbing and appliance repair too. Whether it's heating, cooling, or fixing life's little emergencies, Doty is growing to serve you better, because when your home is happy, your family is too. Visit DotyMechanical.com. That's D-O-T-Y, mechanical.com, or call 517-327-7777. 517-327-7777. Doty, your home's new best friend. Experience the Doty difference. I've done so much work with these guys. They did an amazing job. Had a house fire at a rental house. They came in and had to rebuild everything. And they had to get creative, because with an old house with giant old beams in it, they did an amazing job.
Same here.
Same for Anthony. They did some great work for him this week, too. DotyMechanical.com. I'll be right back. Welcome back to it. It's that time of the week when we bring in our good friend Tom Colson to talk about all things precious metals. And if you have collectibles, coins, baseball cards, anything really, Tom's been in this so long, he's like having the curator of the museum on staff when he's here. All you need to do is send your submissions, your pictures, to coins@stevegruber.com, coins@stevegruber.com. If it's an interesting collectible, he'll look at that too. Tom Colson, welcome back.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Tom. Nice to see you. Let's start with the price of silver and gold. It's been bouncing around a bit, but it seems to have stabilized. Silver, somewhere right there in the mid 70s, I guess, mid 60s, excuse me. Gold at about 4,200. It's kind of varied some up and down, but it's certainly not volatile the way it was a few months ago. And it seems to have, I don't know, what's the word you use? Collected there. It's stabilized. It's just kind of there.
Yeah, it's kind of finding a base, I guess you could say. It had a nice run up last week, up before the Fed announcement on Wednesday, and that kind of curtailed things. I think the possibility of interest rate hikes is something that could put a damper on gold in the short term. So I think people are kind of tentative to see what happens there in the next meeting before
I
things
guess
march up.
to me, that's counterintuitive. You would think that, the dollar being weaker and rates being higher, to me, would attract people to metal, but it apparently doesn't work that way.
Well, if you're raising rates, you're supposedly strengthening the dollar in some fashion, so that would be a headwind for the value of gold because the dollar would be becoming more valuable.
Right. Long term, though, I look at a lot of these predictions, and I know you do too, and you have a newsletter you put out from Liberty Coin there, and you guys can get it, by the way, Liberty Coin Service, the national trade name. Where are we looking a year from now or 5 years down the road? I mean, I know you look at this all the time. It's your business. What do you think?
Yeah, long term, I think the demand for gold and silver both are going to be healthy. I think there's going to be more uses for silver. There still seems to be more uses for silver than there is product available. So, at some point, I think we're going to keep going up here, but it might just take a while for things to settle out.
Yeah, data centers. Apparently, they use a lot of silver. They're building a lot of those things, from what I understand. So, a lot of demand for silver and a lot of demand for gold. Right now, it's stable. Consolidated is the word I was looking for, by the way, earlier. Like I said, if you've got a collectible, coins@stevegruber.com is the place to go. The first coin we have today here, Tom, a lot of different tokens in American history. They could be for railroads. They could be for a lot of different things. Could be for a World's Fair. We see these tokens. This one is different to me. I've not seen one like this. Can you tell me much about it?
Well, it says tradesman's currency, good for 1 cent. I haven't seen this particular token, but it looks very similar to a lot of the tokens issued during the Civil War era when there was a shortage of actual U.S. coinage. So merchants would issue coin or these tokens that were good for cents just so that people would have something to spend. So that's what I think it is a trade token from around that era, that mid.
So my question is this. When they did these, because there were local currencies back in the day in America too, are they collectible? Can they be valuable? I mean, we don't know this one very well, so we don't really know what it could be worth, but can these things generate value? Can they be collectible?
Absolutely. There's a strong collector's base, particularly for the Civil War tokens. Those tend to, even for generic ones, if they're in decent shape, tend to sell for around $20 a piece. So there's a strong demand for those, and there's a lot of specialized collectors that will go after a lot of the scarcer varieties as well.
All right, so there you have that. Now, the second coin here is one that I've seen once before on this program. Somebody sent one in. It's a 1926 half dollar. I've never seen one in person. Why was this one made? I mean, it was like a one-off for that year, right?
No, actually, they made this as a series from 1926 to 1939. It's the Oregon Trail commemorative half dollar. It basically was to commemorate the movement out west from settlers on the Oregon Trail, which the 1926 date coincides with the 75th anniversary of the first travelers out there in 1851. And I think one of the famed early travelers, Ezra Meeker, was still alive in 1926, and he actually pushed for the issuance of this coin.
Now, you pointed out to me before we came on, you don't think this one's real.
No, the color's not quite right. The detail isn't quite as good as I would expect to see on a genuine Oregon Trail $50. So I think this is a fabrication of one.
If it were real, rough value.
Genuine ones are generally $200 to $500. So they're not all that expensive considering how scarce they are, but
right.
Generally considered to be one of the most beautiful U.S. coins ever made.
I'm about to find one of those. All right, we got one more coin left. One of the most iconic coins in American history to me, the Indian head penny. Tell me what we're looking at.
Well, this is an 1869 Indian cent. Looks to be basically in pristine condition. Without looking at it closely, you can't say the exact grade, but you've got a lot of mint red there still. So this looks like it's basically a brand new Indian cent. They did make a variety in 1869 where the date, the last digit in the date was kind of doubled. They call that the 1869/9. This particular year is pretty scarce. They didn't make a lot of those, so you got a nice uncirculated condition like this. A coin like that's worth at least several $100s, if not more.
Several $100. That's why you look in your desk, folks, right there. Trade a penny for a few $100. I would. Tom, always an education, always a pleasure, my friend. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Good to see you, Steve.
Really appreciate it. If you want to find out more about Liberty Coin Service, just look them up online, Liberty Coin Service. You can get in touch with Tom Colson. They do, they'll evaluate coin collections, they'll evaluate collectibles. If you just want to send something in for fun, take a picture, send it to coins@stevegruber.com. I enjoy this segment immensely, and I hope you do as well. We'll take a break and be right back on Daybreak. All right, how about another government shutdown? How about it? Another government shutdown? Are you in? Are you ready? Yeah, here it comes. Senate Republicans and some Democrats fear another government shutdown looming because the spending talks have stalled. Senator Kennedy, among others, say it's because that's what Chuck Schumer wants. He wants a government shutdown for the midterm elections. They can't win a straight election. They can't win without mail-in ballots. They can't win without some sort of drama. They can't win a straight election. They have to create a problem, then blame Republicans, scream about health care and affordability, and then shut the government down to punish American workers for their political gain. Susan Collins, the chair of the Appropriations Committee, canceled a markup of 4 bills. Last year, no problem. Went right through with strong bipartisan support. Of course, it wasn't an election year. Ruben Gallego wasn't facing expulsion from the Senate for using his campaign finance fund as a slush fund. Democratic socialists weren't surging last year like they are this year. The Democrats have to do something. They're in a panic about losing Well, losing their party to a bunch of radical communists or to the Republicans because they still have common sense. Senator Chris Murphy, stooge, says he thinks another government shutdown could be on the table for the fall. These guys are the Keystone Cops. They don't know how to run the government, so a shutdown is always possible. Yeah, because that's what you guys want. That is what you guys want. You see, Democrats already pointing the finger at Republicans. For a shutdown, there's anything but inevitable unless the Democrats force it to happen. But the main networks and the New York Times and all the others will call it Trump's shutdown because that's what they do. Because they're in the bag for these people. They are in the bag for these people. All right, coming up, Ron Rademacher will be here with a look at what's great in Michigan this time of the year, which is pretty much everything. There's no better place in the world than Michigan in the summer. Trust me on this. I'll be right back. All right. Hey, let's jump right back into it with our good friend Ron Rademacher, who's been roaming around Michigan sampling beer, burgers, and everything else he can find to entertain himself. And trust me, there's a lot to find to entertain yourself in Michigan during the summer. Ron, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. How are we?
I'm lovely. I mean, The weather's been a little cool, but I don't mind it. You know, I think we've had one day that touched, maybe scratched 90 degrees so far. That's it. I guess that's climate change. But other than that, it's been a pretty cool, comfortable, lovely summer.
Yeah, they've done a good job on the climate change. Yeah, we were noticing, we were out on a trail on Monday, and the weather, we commented, it was just like a beautiful late September day in northern Michigan.
Yeah, which is the greatest.
Bright
a late
sunshine
September
and crisp weather. It was just gorgeous. And there's a lot to do in this kind of weather. Would you like to hear a couple of them?
You know, I would, Ron. It's why you're here. It's why you're a hero to the viewers and listeners of this program, because you talk about nice things.
There's so much to do in Michigan this time of year. Just cutting the list down is very tough. Of course, they've got the one we can't let go, and that is NAMA. Up in NAMA, they're having their music festival at the General Store this weekend. Anybody who's been to that comes away amazed at the quality of the talent that shows up year after year. People come from far and wide. Some come from as far away as Rock to that festival. So that's going to be a great time. If you can't get to the Upper Peninsula, Charlotte has their Bluegrass Festival out of the Eaton County Fairgrounds. And they do know how to do country western out there. In fact, around that part of the state, Charlotte is known as Chartucky. So,
it sure is. Yeah.
It sure is.
Yeah.
Everybody knows. And it's considered a compliment by the people who live there. And Escanaba is having their Log Jam Music Festival. And that's going to take up the street on Ludington Avenue between 10th and 12th. So there's music all over Michigan. Now, to get to the important stuff, Steve.
All right.
There's the Frisky Strawberry Festival at the Frisky Farm Market. If you've never been there, up in Ellsworth, it's not far from the northern compound. Drive over there sometime. You'll see America and Michigan the way that it really ought to be. For you guys,
I love Ellsworth.
It's a gorgeous little area.
It is.
That's a great festival that they put on there. And Anthony, I'm not sure if any of the Snowdrift guys are going to be there, but they're having the car show in St. Ignace this weekend. So classic cars are going to be there too.
He'd take his, but he's not sure it'll go that far, you know.
All right.
If you get to the top of the bridge, you can coast down to the other side. New Baltimore is a little tiny town. I know that you know where that is, Steve. They have the Bay Rama Fly Fish Festival this weekend.
They do?
And they do this weekend, June 28th. And, over 80,000 people show up for that during
Really?
5 days. So that
it's not far from Chicago. It's just around the horn, right?
No, I think New Baltimore is over, unless I'm wrong, is over on the southeast
You're right.
side.
I was confusing with New Buffalo. My mistake, Ron. I'm moving the cities around the state at random. You're right. My mistake.
That does happen. Well, that's twice this year you've been wrong, isn't it? Twice.
Oh, I thought I was wrong. Then I realized I was just mistaken.
That's what it was. That's what it was. Another one of the great festivals that there are a couple of other really good ones here I don't want to miss out on. The Porch Fest in Port Austin, up there where the Turnip Rock is. People decorate their front porches and then go out and sit on them. That's a hot time. Fun. And then...
Babe, I decorated the porch.
Austin.
I'm having a cocktail. I'll be out front.
Yeah.
Oh, boy.
Grab a coal and sit out on your decorated porch. Ostinique is having their Shingaba Shores Carnival, and they have great They do great stuff at this carnival. And one of the things they're doing this year is they have Bob Zarins is going to be there. I don't know if you've ever seen him perform, but he's a comedian and a magician. And this guy is very entertaining. And then speaking of entertaining,
Ostinique.
Ostinique.
I got to be honest, Ron. I'm looking at that one going,
yes.
I don't know that one. I don't know that place.
Oh.
I was going to say, is it Osineki? Is it Osinique? Anyhow.
It's Ostinique, and if you're ever there early in the morning, go to Connie's. You won't be able to miss it. Connie's Cafe, almost every law enforcement vehicle in Alcona County will be out front.
They'll all be parked there.
She does breakfast, man.
Yeah.
No, she knows how to do breakfast and has these gigantic cinnamon rolls. The world tour with myself and Bob the Turtle, we will be at the St. Clair Art Fair this weekend. Maybe I'll be able to run over to New Baltimore and catch the fly. Not sure. So that's what's going on. Of course, Howell has their Balloon Fest. And I've got a really great road trip for you if you're up for one.
Now, I'm ready for a road trip because from what I'm reading here in the notes, Ron, one of the most iconic, most important roads, not just in Michigan, but in America, is open just in time to celebrate 250 years of greatness.
That's right. They did it. And we got to give a shout out to the, I guess the highway department has something to do with it. You know, the tunnel of trees up north of Bay Harbor, they got washed out during some of the floods just a month or so ago. And I saw the pictures and it looked to me like that road was going to be closed also. But I'm hearing from the Goodhart people and the Goodhart store and the other people in the area that road is open. So
M22,
if you want to
right?
go drive is it 22 or is it 19?
You know, when you get up in there, it gets a little confusing. There's so many trees and the tunnels and so forth. I'm going to have to look that up. I thought it was 22, but I could be mistaken. I could be mistaken twice in one program.
Oh my, well, yeah, mistaken, but never wrong. And never in doubt, which is the most important part. So there's a few things to do along. I talk to people all the time. They say, oh, yeah, did you write about the tunnel of trees? Because everybody goes and drives the tunnel of trees. But let me just tell you a few things that you can do along the way because it's a short drive. It's only about 20 or 30 miles. There's a few things along the way that you might want to check out. First of all, you're going to see weirdly bent trees because you'll be going slow. There's heavy traffic. These weirdly bent trees are way markers left behind by the Ojibwe. They bent trees to mark pathways before we paved roads or even had roads all over Michigan. And you can see a lot of them out on Beaver Island, but you will see them along the tunnel of trees. One place will be near the Cour de Diablo, which I believe is Devil's Curve, if I got my French right. You'll notice them there. There is the Thorn Swift Nature Area where there are some bent trees there, but they also have a very cool trail at that nature area that goes right to a beach on Lake Michigan. So if you need a quick break, that. There are
one more.
There's a St. Ignatius. One more. We're going to do pot pies and Polish cuisine. You get the best pot pies in America at the Goodhart store, and of course, Legs Inn at the northern end specializes in Polish cuisine. And from their beach, you can see 4 working lighthouses. It's the only place in Michigan you can see 4 all at one time.
The Tunnel of Trees. It is a gem, a crown jewel of Michigan in the summer. There it is. If you would like your festival spotlighted here with Ron, go to MichiganBackroads.com, MichiganBackroads.com. And you can go to MichiganBackroads.com to get your day trip advice and Ron's books. There are many, and they are wonderful, and so is Ron. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Steve. You have a wonderful weekend. Hope you get to go fishing.
Me too. Thank you, Ron. Back after this. All right, welcome back to it as we jump right back in with the best part of the program, that, of course, being Ivy back on the show. Ivy, hope you're having a good morning. I know you've been busy. You've been running around like a maniac.
I have.
Yeah.
Amazingly, still making it on time for my live interview with you.
There you go. So, what is on your mind today?
So it seems like to me that Iran's kind of gotten quiet, a situation going on in Iran after the Memorandum of Understanding was entered. But I want you to hear something that the president posted on his Truth Social page. Go ahead.
79. The clock's been ticking. Iran has killed Americans every year for 47 years.
160 dead. Hostage has been killed. 180 attacks from Iran on Americans.
Past presidents appeased Iran.
$1.7 billion in cash to Iran.
Refused to enforce sanctions. While Iran pursued nuclear weapons.
Could make 11 nuclear bombs.
Missiles that could soon reach the American homeland.
Imminent production of a nuclear weapon.
Too close for comfort.
When will Iran have a nuclear weapon? Never. Thank you, President Trump.
We can come back to this, Anthony. What do you think of
That's
that?
pretty powerful.
Yeah.
You know,
it's like let's have a little history lesson and remind everyone what Iran really does.
You know, I'm a little bit older than you, so I remember as a kid sitting there watching those hostages with their blindfolds being paraded around. 52 hostages held 444 days, not released until the 20th of January 1981, right after Ronald Reagan had taken the oath of office, because they knew that Ronald Reagan was going to come get the Americans back, one way or the other. The failure there, though, is he didn't go finish the job, and neither did anybody else. And I think that tells the story. We sat there, you know, Barack Obama gave $1.7 billion in cash taken from New York banks.
Sitting on pallets.
Pallets of cash. And then Joe Biden released billions more. And now you've got all the critics of this deal saying, well, the Iranians are going to get $300 billion. Not from us. They're not getting money from us. Not this time around. No, sir. And Donald Trump also made a deal for the Iranians to use some of the money that they get released to buy American corn, wheat, beans, agricultural products, because they're starving, which is part of the untold story here. Things are not good inside Iran. They've been hit hard and repeatedly. And so, look.
Why do you think that other presidents, particularly Reagan, didn't follow through in terms of getting Iran in line? What do you? Is there because it was a political cost?
Well, no, for Reagan, I don't know. I mean, it's a long time ago now.
That's
true. I mean, it's 1980s.
Yeah.
You'd have to go back and figure out what the situation was then. But since then, it's been appeasement. It has been, and Republicans and Democrats alike. And let's be honest, what was just said there, they've killed Americans every year, either directly or by way of Hezbollah, Hamas, the Houthis.
ISIS. I mean, I think we quickly forget how bad, ISIS was as well.
Right.
We never talk about ISIS anymore. But there were, at one point in time, I recall the internet being filled with beheadings and bombs and suicide bombers and the like.
Daniel Pearl being beheaded, a journalist beheaded on video and then sent back to America. That kind of crap went on forever. And look.
How quickly we forget these things.
I'm a guy who believes finish the job.
Yeah.
You've heard me say that from the time it started. A lot of people oppose forever war. There's no forever war here. The involvement there is a little over 100 days right now. There's been no hostilities in a number of days or weeks, actually. A couple of retaliatory strikes against missile launches and so forth, but nothing of significance in weeks now. And it's time to finish it, because if Iran comes back into being a civilized nation again, the Middle East will be quiet. And so that's why the UAE, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, all those, they're going to be the ones putting the money into Iran to rebuild it and do it. Not us, not the American taxpayer for once.
Right.
And if they want to rebuild their neighbor and have their neighbor return to the League of Civilized Nations, great. Why would anybody oppose that? And yet people do.
Doesn't make any sense to me. It would make sense to bring them back into the fold and have the Middle East be peaceful.
Right. And the other part that nobody talks about, I have at length, but nobody seems to talk about it, is the fact that Donald Trump has reordered the world energy markets. Oil right now is about to drop to $70 a barrel. It's going to go into the 60s.
I know when I filled up at the tank yesterday, I go, why are our gas prices still so high
Well,
in Michigan?
Also on Truth Social, the president just put out, excuse me, he's asking the Department of Justice to look into it and see why gas prices are $3.92 a gallon on national average when oil is $71. There's no mathematical justification for that. He's asking the Department of Justice to look into price gouging. Good.
Ah, good.
You know, I'm glad he's doing that, and he should. And I don't know, but what I started to say is he's reordered the world energy markets. OPEC is less important all the time. OPEC, I mean, the UAE left OPEC a couple of weeks ago. They're out. We produce more oil and gas in America than Saudi Arabia and Russia combined. That's how much energy America's producing now. Then you put in Venezuela, Brazil, Argentina, and several other countries in Central and South America. We don't need the energy from the Middle East anymore, which will make the world a better place too.
Yes, it really helps to circumvent the power that they have over other nations, and that is a good thing because it seemed like for a while they use that to their advantage.
Oh,
of course. Every
life.
country does that, right?
Yeah.
And America should do the same.
Absolutely. That's why we call it America First. And they've used that leverage my entire life.
Right.
And I've seen wars in the Middle East my entire life. And I'm hoping the Abraham Accords will be signed by Saudi Arabia, and President Trump advances that agenda as well for peace, long term, in my lifetime in the Middle East. God bless America.
God bless America.
Thank you, Ivy. Love you.
Love you.
All right. I'll take a break and have some final thoughts after these commercial messages. Well, a conservative watchdog group telling the FCC that The View is a Democrat Party operation, not a news program. Evidence shows that it has for years operated for political purposes, says MRC President David Boesel. A political operation, not a bona fide news interview program, as the network battles the Federal Communications Commission over equal time for political candidates. Earlier this year, the FCC launched an investigation into ABC's The View amid the agency's crackdown on equal time for political candidates after Texas Democrat Senate candidate James Tallarico appeared on the program. Disney on Monday launched an on-air campaign urging viewers to support The View, but the conservative MRC feels the show fails to meet the bona fide news standards that would make it exempt from equal time. For nearly 4 decades, the Media Research Center has been an unrelenting media watchdog and a counterforce to activism in America's newsrooms, broadcast networks, and big tech platforms. As such, the MRC is uniquely qualified to respond to the Commission's request for comment on Disney ABC's petition to declare that the daytime television program, The View, qualifies as a bona fide news interview program, said David Boesel, writing to FCC Division Chief Maria Mularkey, maybe. The View is a political program. It's not a news operation.
Political program?
What's that?
Are you a political program?
Sure, but I offer equal time. Democrats want to come on, you're welcome to come on. Come on.
Oh, let's get a Democrat on.
Come on.
Come on.
Yes, we I don't know what the rules are as far as equal time, but the fact is it's an open invitation here to anybody.
They're scared of you, Steve.
Scared. Anyhow, yeah, I mean, Gretchen Whitmer's been here, Dana Nessel's been here, Jocelyn Benson's been here, Alyssa Slotkin's been here, not in a while, but they're welcome to come join me. Fight the good fight, keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gerber. This is Daybreak, and remember, only you can save America.